So apparently we have a loneliness epidemic. Let's talk about it. Maybe a time in our life when we have lots of friends, saw them every day or nearly every day. But it definitely gets harder the older you get to make friends. Of course, if you're ancient like me, some of your friends pass away, which is even sadder. When you're a little kid, anyone can be your friend. I remember just playing outside the house when I was a nipper, and this little boy called Roger came. I'd got some new wellies and was just splashing in a puddle, and this little lad was interested in what I was doing. He didn't have wellies, so obviously couldn't splash in the puddle. We got chatting and I could see how much he wanted to splash in the puddle, so I suggested just splashed in the edge because he only had shoes on. And before long, obviously, we were both really splashing in the puddle, getting soaking wet. And from the butcher shop a few yards away, we heard his mother, "Roger!" He was in trouble, but just that one encounter, he became a friend. He lived in the next street, went to his house, played with his train set, fantastic. Then in my teenage years, I was part of a youth club. Wouldn't have been something I would do. I do tend more to be towards the end of the introvert scale of things, but I had some good friends who were extroverts who involved me in some good stuff, and the youth club was one of those things. That also led to a little group of us going hiking and camping in the Lake District, and that's what kind of spawned my lifelong love of the Lake District. And we used to hang out and then at the youth club, and then when we got a bit older and the youth club was short of staff, I actually gave 4 of us a job at the youth club as staff. So I mean, it was just hanging out with young people, which is what we're doing anyway. So we actually got paid to go to the youth club, which was quite cool. And from there we got involved in another youth club across town, made lots of friends there, and soon we were sort of pairing off. Some, not all of us, but most of us sort of paired up, got married in the years following, and it was just a group, and it was a bit like you know, the TV show Friends, just in each other's lives all the time.
Joey?
And I think that's why people like Friends, because they just want to, it's not the comedy, I don't think, it's they just want to hang out with those people. Friends is obviously nicked from the TV series Seinfeld, both American obviously. Seinfeld was ahead of his time, and everything just revolved around his little flat in New York.
Hey, nice going, Jerome Seinfeld!
What?
With his weird friends coming in and out, and it's, you can see it's a template for Friends. But today we have a loneliness epidemic, and I have to say, for me, I've lost touch with a lot of friends, partly because I moved away from Manchester where I knew everybody, and partly I think just as you get older it's harder to make friends. But yeah, I've just been thinking about that, and I think even before the pandemic, I think there was a loneliness epidemic. There's a lot of lonely people about, and they don't know what to do to sort of engage and make friends, really. It is harder when you get older. The other thing that's really thrown a spanner in the works with friendships is so-called social media. Because it may be media, but it's not social, it's antisocial if anything. Yeah, it's great, all my distant relatives up north, I can keep in touch with them through social media, but I don't use it very often because I think it's really antisocial. First of all, psychologists will tell you that what humans need is, you need physical presence, eye contact and touch. Not that we're touching each other up. Well, I hope we're not without consent. Not that we're touching each other up when we meet, but just like if someone's sad, putting a hand on the shoulder. If we're having a laugh, you know, you might just pat someone's shoulder or give them a joke punch on the shoulder or something like that. But there's elements of touch, and it might just be passing the sugar in the cafe across the table and your fingers just touch a little bit. But that closeness of another human is something that we actually need, because we're designed for community. Yeah.
Still, this is not 32 days a month.
Oh, well, there you go, there you go. The other thing about social media, though, is that it's a fantasy and a tragedy, really. It's a fantasy in that 99% of people only put the highlights of their lives on there. So if you're just viewing their feed, it looks like all they ever do is great stuff and that they're always happy, which obviously isn't true. No one's happy all the time. But if you look at Instagram feeds and Facebook and whatever the heck the new, I really don't bother with much. Have a little look at Instagram these days, but I've deleted Facebook off my phone. Feel a lot better for it, because you get into the comparison thing and it's actually makes you feel more lonely and more distant. You look like you're not, unless you're in the photos that you're looking at, you feel excluded, and you assume that everyone's having a better time than you are. But the news is they're not. There's a lot of lonely people about, and if we're included in that, what can we do about it? Well, as I said before, I tend more towards the introvert end of thing. I like a lot of time on my own. I'm generally happy in my own company, and sometimes irritated if there's a lot of people and a lot of noise. So I get on okay alone, but obviously I want contact as well. So what can you do? Well, you can push yourself just to be with people. So a few years back now, so probably more than 5 years ago now, so 3 friends I was at college with and their partners tried to arrange to get together. The trouble is, I think one lives in Kent, or certainly sort of south of London, and the other furthest one lived near Wales, and then the furthest one was in Scotland, in Dundee, and tremendously difficult to get everyone together. Well, difficult to find when everyone was free, but also it's a commitment to, it would have to be an overnight thing. But we did it, and we got together, and it was just like the days of being back in college, all a bit older and wiser and greyer in some cases, or thinning on top in other cases. But it really highlighted the value of keeping friendships, and I guess we used social media to organise that, so that was a positive, that we sort of stayed connected on there. But those moments are few and far between. So a few things I've tried to do. I've tried to make contacts with people from the past, but I just they might feel like I do about social media because I can't find them on there, or that who knows, they may have passed away, unfortunately. But it did highlight to me the importance of valuing the friendships we have now. Some of them may just be acquaintances, but maybe someone we meet for coffee occasionally, and perhaps we haven't done it very often, and that they might be a little bit irritating. That's why you haven't done it often. But there's something important about meeting together with another human. So there is a few things you can do, even if, like me, you don't like groups, and it can be a bit hard to sort of get into communities. And I think that's the key, the word community, because there are little communities all over if you begin to look for them. I noticed a few years back the word community just came up, and I started writing down the communities I sort of touched and engage with. Yes, don't walk in the darkness of loneliness, but come out into the light. You can do that by engaging with some of these communities. So there is no one less likely than me to join a gym class. Well, there's no one less likely than me to join any class, really. But go into the gym or the exercise class, you may think that's very unlike you. Believe me, I'm much worse at that sort of thing. However, probably about 8-9 years ago, could be 10 years ago now, I just became aware that I was getting older, and that I was extremely unfit, didn't have a good diet, wasn't eating good food. And although as a family and as a couple we tend to go a walk once a week, or go and do something where I'm moving about and getting some exercise, a lot of my time was spent either sat behind a desk or behind the steering wheel of a car. And as I say, the older you get, the more you become aware that some people are falling off the perch altogether. So I thought I'd better do something, and I've got a friend Bob, who some of you may have seen over on the Walk channel, done some walks with him, who's a personal trainer, and he was at the time the sort of cardiac and stroke rehab guy, so he was getting people who'd had a heart attack or strokes back into fitness and bringing them back to life basically. And he's very extrovert, and that's why I struggled to think of sort of going to one of his classes. Just didn't see myself doing that, but anyway I did in the end. I thought I'll give it a go, and as I say, I've been going nearly 10 years now. Met some people there. I don't think any of them really become close friends, but what's happened, because we're all local, when I'm walking about town and that, we bump into each other, you have a conversation, have a chat, and that just breaks up a bit of loneliness. And of course there's things like church, if that's your thing. May not be, but if that's your thing, they're little communities. So I go to a little Wednesday morning communion service in a little village hall out of town on a Wednesday, and then it's only about half an hour, and I know a couple of people that go there. But immediately after that, sort of 10 minutes after the service finishes, the village people, I mean the guys off YMCA, but the people in the village have organised a sort of coffee and cake thing, and it's sort of donations only, so if you can't afford it, you can still come anyway. I got to know a few people there, interesting people I've met there, and it just taps you into a couple of communities. They're all very different communities. So people at the coffee and cake in the village tend to be a bit more elderly, not all of them, but tend to be, and they possibly not the people that would go to the gym class. Well, having said that, a lot of the gym class are my age or older, so who knows, maybe they will. And then the other thing is just kind of pursue your passions a little bit, and I don't know what that could be for you, but I started YouTube just making a channel about me going for a walk, and it really wasn't about anyone else. It came as a result of someone saying, what do you do for you? What do you do for yourself? Chasing about trying to help everyone else. I wasn't really doing anything for myself, which is poor self-care. So I started this YouTube channel called Walks and Wonders, and because it sort of hit around the time of the pandemic, my original plan was just to video the walks we did around the country when we go away, or if we go out for the day, because the pandemic hit and then you weren't really allowed to travel very far. So the other vague interest I have is local history. Just fascinated by what came before this, what came before, what came before in the town where we live, and started doing a bit of research. Did a couple of local history videos. That suddenly tapped me into another community, a community that was sort of interested in the town, in the history, and in the biodiversity, and connected me with my friend Fiona, who leads a local dementia group for people living with dementia. She talks about living well with dementia, and she was using my videos in care homes to get people with dementia to chat about their memories, just kind of stir the brain up a bit. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but she said they were very useful. And then things began to merge, because the leisure centre where I went to Bob's gym class and the Dementia Alliance decided to do a project together to do walks, either for people with dementia to attend with a carer, or that if they weren't able to do the walk, they could watch online. So they got me to video the walks. But the point of all that is me just following a passion of, and my passion isn't walking, although yet again in this video I'm going on a walk. I much prefer walking and videoing rather than standing in a room and talking. Well, my real passion is making films, making videos. I say film because I started making films when it was actually film. Back when I was 17, I had a cine camera, bought my little cheap Super 8 cine camera, and over on the Walk channel there is an old, the only remaining cine film of the Norfolk Broads back in the day, and I've had that digitised and put on there. But the point is, I just pursued passion, something that was just for me. I put it on YouTube so like the family could see it. I didn't really expect anyone would watch that, but I think there's about 1200, 1500 subscribers over on Walks and Wonders now. Link in the description below. Do subscribe over there. But I think whatever your passion is, whatever your interests are, if you know, instead of spending time regretting that you're on your own or feeling lonely, if you actually do something you enjoy, it's amazing. And it doesn't really matter what it is. It doesn't have to be anything that I've mentioned, but people have passions and people share passions, and as you pursue those things that you enjoy, you're likely to come into communities of like-minded people, or into the jungle as I was there for a moment. The other thing I definitely do these days is I do chat to strangers, despite my mum and dad telling me never talk to strangers when I was growing up. I make a point of, when I'm sort of walking into town or just walking about, just saying something, if it's just hi or good morning or something, just commenting on something that's happening as we pass each other, because not only could that lead to something, it doesn't normally, but it could lead to a friendship or at least a conversation. But the main thing is, I do realise that for some people that could be the only conversation they have today, maybe the only conversation they've had that week. A few years back we had heavy snow. We live in a little cul-de-sac and it was difficult to get out, but we had an elderly neighbour who didn't drive, didn't have a car, she just had a mobility scooter, and I'd chatted to her a few times, and when all the TVs had to be retuned, helped to retune a TV. So I knew it wasn't the first time I'd spoken to her, but I just realised, you know, the snow was going to be there for a few days and she might feel a bit trapped. So I knocked on the door and just asked her if she needed anything from the shop, or, you know, if she needed me to go and do anything. She was probably stuck at home. And her response was, I was quite sad really. She said, "Oh, I've lived here 8 years and this is the first time anyone's knocked on the door and asked if I need any help." As it turned out, she didn't. She'd stocked up, I think. But I told her, you know, we're just a couple of doors down. If she needs anything, just let us know. And she had our phone number as well. Now, I don't want to sound like an old man, even though that's what I am. But when I was growing up in Manchester, there was a community, and it was destroyed by the slum clearances and Manchester Corporation. But before they knocked the house down, there was a community, and people, like our front door was just open all day. It wasn't locked, it was just literally open, and we had a little porch door inside that wasn't locked either. And that's how we lived. Everybody sort of knew everyone's business within a few blocks, and if something tragic happened, like your bike got nicked, well, you knew it was the Turners. They were notorious. They were a family of 10, bunch of thieving whatnots. Okay, it may not have always been the Turners, but normally it was the Turners. I think this is the other reason this sort of video of someone just walking down the street and chatting, it can be quite popular, I guess, depending on the subject. But there's a guy I watch who's normally just walking around Toronto in Canada, either chatting about cameras or veganism or his diet or whatever. I'm interested in cameras, but not as much as he is, and I'm interested in eating well, but probably not as much as he is. But he's a bit of a comedian, and I just find it quite comforting. Sort of, I think he's just walking to the shop to get his food for the day. It's sort of, I find it comforting just sort of joining him on the walk, really. And a few people have sort of said they find my walk videos quite calming. That's probably because we're out in nature, and maybe my voice is put you into a comatose state quite easily. I could bore you to death, help you relax into sleep. But I think it is this thing of loneliness. I remember asking my mum once why she'd have the radio on. This is when I was a kid. I'd have the radio on, or maybe sometimes the TV, but she wasn't listening to it. She was reading a book at the same time. And I remember asking her once why she didn't just switch the TV or the radio off. And she said, I like the company, which is interesting. We all have lonely sort of seasons in our life, but there are steps you can take. That's the thing. We're in this loneliness epidemic. We're also in a mental health epidemic. 2 and a bit years of the pandemic, the government come on the TV almost every day telling you if you go outside you're going to catch this thing that they don't have a cure for and you might die. I think that's messed with everyone's psychology, and even those of us who are sort of fairly robust mentally still struggle with issues from that time. Well, before the pandemic we bought a camper van, really enjoyed travelling, and the week of the first lockdown we were all ready to tour the Highlands of Scotland, and it was all cancelled. And also planned to visit my ancestral home in Ireland, which I'd done before, but we're going to do it as a couple. All that was cancelled because of endless lockdowns, and then lockdowns being different in Ireland, Wales and England and Scotland. I have to say, although we've had some trips away, started using the camper van again, but our kind of openness to adventure and going long distance it's not come back really. And what's changed is, yes, we had a virus, deadly virus. We now have a vaccine for that, but that doesn't work for everyone. I think during those times of being told this sort of apocalyptic tale every day that if you go outside you die, it really has messed with my head. And I know that isn't the case now, but yeah, something has been touched there. So what do you think? What do you do to escape loneliness? Maybe you're not lonely, but if you are, or you're aware you sometimes are, leave a comment below share your tips. I'm not an expert in this, but yeah, let me know your tips and tricks, how you avoid loneliness or how you tackle it, what community groups you're sort of involved with, whether you feel you can do that, whether you can't do that, any alternatives, and then let's start a conversation in the comments. Loneliness is quite serious. It can really bring us down into depression if it goes on too long. But yeah, I think the key thing is realising that almost everybody feels like that at some time, and that the main thing is to get outside and do something and make some attempts to connect with people. There are groups about that do that. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell, and you'll get notifications of new videos. I'll see you next time.